Alright everyone, welcome to another Antares Shipyard live stream. Tonight we are going to be doing episode 2 of the build breakdown series. We're going to take a closer look at some of the builds that I have personally used for the Scimitar or Reman Warbird chassis. And then we'll also look at a couple of community submissions that I got when I did ask the question, what captain pairs well with the Scimitar or the Reman Warbird. So we'll definitely be answering those questions. Other than that, we're just going to take a deep dive looking into the Reman Warbird. There's not really much to say. Well, I shouldn't say there isn't much to say. There isn't much to say in the way of most people know that the Scimitar itself is a pretty good ship. It's a big ship that costs a heavy amount of points, but it has good stat lines and good firing arc and a fairly good dial for what it is. So let's go ahead and we'll hop right into Tabletop Simulator. We'll get right on the board here. There we go. Face cam's on. Hello, everyone. Okay, so we're taking a look first at the Reman Warbird and the Scimitar models there. The only difference between the two in the stat lines is the Reman Warbird has just one more shield. So we are looking at a 6274 for the Scimitar and a 6273 for the Reman Warbird. Front 90 firing arc and a rear 90 firing arc. They both have the same actions: evade, target lock, cloak, sensor echo. So this is definitely another cloaking ship, and it's going to get the bonus cloak defense token or defense dice, and that's always a good thing for anybody who's playing Romulans or a cloaking pure fleet, or just a cloaking fleet in general. The dial is very interesting. The Reman Warbird is one of the fastest ships in the game, sitting at the top with that forward 6 straight that is white, not a red maneuver. It's got a forward 5, 4. All the 3s are white as well, so hard turn 3, bank, 1, and just forwards. It does have a come about 4 that is red. And I believe that is one of the harder come abouts in terms of template length. I believe the Klingons are all 3 come abouts, and the other Romulans are also 3 come about reds. So the Reman Warbird might be the only one that uses that. Unsure on that. And then you've got 4 green maneuvers, the 2 forward and the 2 and all the 1 maneuvers. Which I know it doesn't seem like the ship can really move around that much, but given that it's got a forward 90 and the rear 90, it doesn't take much for the Scimitar or the Reman Warbird to get a ship into arc, because you can bank and then sensor echo either left or right, and generally that forward or rear firing arc will cover what you don't capture with a 180. 180 is obviously far superior, but generally 180s don't have a rear unless you're in the Reliant Miranda classes. Future video. Okay, so we've talked about the model, we've talked about the stat lines, we've talked about the movement maneuver cards. Let's get into the first build, and it is a build that I actually ran. It's a build that I ran recently with the Fremont Reformation group when I ran 2 50-point ships. Now, I will say that any build that you're doing with the Scimitar or the Reman Warbird itself, it's going to be expensive. And the reason it's going to be expensive is because the ship itself is expensive. It comes with the territory. Now, this is not an original idea that I had. I will give credit to the first person I saw use it, and that was a gentleman by the Discord name of Kyrix. You will see he's in the Fremont Reformation Discord along with the other attack wing Discord that's not as active as the Fremont one. But this was his build, and I've used it a bunch of times, and I've had modifications on it. So this is not 100% what he had built up to, but we will get there. So we start with the Scimitar itself, 6274, like we said. It's got 2 tech slots, 2 weapon slots, and a crew slot. So it's got a fairly good slot layout. I think it hurts having just the 1 crew slot, but there are workarounds for it. So the captain for this build here, and any version of it you see with Lurin in the captain slot, I will refer to as a money goblin build. Because when Gold Press Latinum came out, that's what the Ferengi became, and it's thematic and suiting to them, and this build shows it off fairly well. So you have the Scimitar, and it's after you attack while you're cloaked. You may place an auxiliary power token to keep your ship from flipping its cloak token. Okay, not a terrible ability. It's permanent cloak. After you attack, you can flip. Lurin, skill 7, 1 elite talent slot, 5 points. So he's a pretty expensive Ferengi captain as is. With him, you do not pay a faction penalty when equipping this card or Ferengi upgrade cards to the ship. All Ferengi upgrades are minus 1 SP. Okay, so he's giving discounts. That's great. That's wonderful for the ship. That's what you need. Setup, place 2 Gold Press Latinum tokens on this card. So let's go ahead. Let's grab 2 Gold Press Latinum. Let's throw them there. Okay. Now we've got 2 copies of the Ferengi Photon Torpedoes. The attack value of this the secondary weapon is the ship's primary weapon value. So this is a 6 dice torpedo. It can be fired range 1 to 3. Forward, rear firing arc. That is very important for the Scimitar. Attack. Place 2 time tokens on this card and target an opposing ship. Place an aux power token beside the target ship. Okay, so now with an aux power, you're attempting to limit the maneuver of your opponent the next round. They can either take a white maneuver and keep the aux, or they can take a green maneuver and slow their ship down to clear the aux. Of course, given what upgrades they're running themselves. You bring 2 copies of those because they're cheap, for 1, and 2, you can fire either or. So you can fire the first one in round 1 of your combat, and I'll still have a time token on it, and you still have another set to fire. Grawl. In face, discard this card or another crew upgrade equipped to this card, and place 2 Gold Press Latinum tokens on the captain equipped. So, what I generally do with Grawl is the first turn, where everybody is trying to get out of their starting zones. I will discard Grawl, and he adds another 2 Gold Press Latinum to my captain. It's very important that the captain has Gold Press Latinum. Now, during the activation phase of the next round, you can spend a Gold Press Latinum to bring Grawl back. And you can only do this. That's an effect with Gold Press Latinum that only can be done once per game. You can bring him back, and then in the end phase again, you can discard him again for another 2 Gold Press Latinum. So yes, you're spending 1 for a net gain of +1 on that. But at the end of the day, Lurin comes up with 5 Gold Press Latinums that can be spent in the beginning of the combat phase. And that's keywords, beginning of the combat phase. So at the beginning of the combat phase, Lurin can spend these for battle stations, which is exactly what you want with this build. So basically you've got 5 rounds of battle stations here. Now, there are other ways to do this. this is the most cost-effective of the build. I'm going to go over some other things that we can do to this build, but this is a good base for people to work from when they're trying to do the Money Goblin Scimitar. So the Scimitar itself is 38 points. Learn is 5, so that puts you up to 43. The Ferengi Photon Torpedoes are 1 apiece, so that brings you up to 45. And then Grawl is -1 thanks to Learn, so he's free. When bringing him back, when you still have to pay his printed SP cost. That was a Wharf ruling, so his cost is just that 1 gold press platinum. So, what other things can be done with this build? Well, let's see here. Turn this back on real quick. I think this is a good one here. So the first ship in this build is the Scimitar again. This is going to be Lurin. And he's probably the best captain to put on the Scimitar if you're playing, mixed factions. Alright, so here we go. This is already the one different card. It is a very expensive combo to pull off, but this will ensure that Lurin is set with Gold Press Platinum. And we'll get to that here in a second. Let's get the rest of the cards revealed. So another copy of Ferengi Photon Torpedoes and Bridge Officer. Okay, so this is the build that I ran during 2019 US Nationals, along with my Vorn from episode 1. I ran this just because I knew I hadn't seen anybody run it in the national tournaments before, so I thought this would be fun to run. Now, the biggest plus with running this, so Lurin's given you +2 Gold Press Platinum tokens already. That's 2 native. And then the Rules of Acquisition is adding 6 more to that. So there's your stack of Gold Press Platinum. All of these you just spend on battle stations. Now, you may be wondering, how come I don't have 2 copies of Ferengi Photon Torpedoes to switch back and forth with? Well, Romulan Bridge Officer actually allows me to place 1 less time token on a secondary weapon upgrade. So now Ferengi Photon Torpedoes is just getting 1 time token at the end of the round, or 1 time token when it attacks. So it takes 1 time token off in the end phase. So you get to use Ferengi Photon Torpedoes every round. Of course, again, the fact that it has a forward 90 and a rear 90 firing arc, you need to take full advantage if you're going to use these builds. So plan on staying cloaked for a long time. You can definitely use your green banks to shake those oxes if you need to. And if you fly past an enemy and you want to do a white bank because you feel like it's going to put you in a better position to fire, and you've already got an ox next to your ship, don't be afraid to do the maneuver. Do the bank, and then hopefully they're in arc, and you don't need the sensor echo action. Because even if you do drop your cloak the next round, if you've already flown past them, chances are they need to turn around as well. So you can recloak, you can get rid of that ox, you can do what you need to do, and still take a fairly hefty shot on them. There is another item or another card that can get added to these builds to make this even spicier. Let's go ahead and grab all this. Just throw it off to the side. Now that one card, there's actually 2 cards that can make another Ferengi build fun. go. Alright, so the top Scimitar build is 45 points. This Scimitar is let's see, 43, 48, 49. I believe this Scimitar build is sitting at 50. So this Scimitar build here can't really do much with these two cards, but you could add, you can, supplement. You could take Rules of Acquisition out and put Ghent here or Chemocyte. So what do these two cards do for you if you want to substitute or add them to the top build? Ghent is a very cool card. The writing on it is tiny, so I'll zoom in here a little bit more. So you may only equip Grand Nagus and the Rules of Acquisition upgrades to this Admiral. Set up, place two gold plus platinum on the captain equipped. When a friendly captain would spend one or more gold press platinum, you may roll a number of defense dice equal to the number of gold press platinum that would be spent. For each evade result, spend one fewer gold press platinum. So, if you are spending gold press platinum to buy a battle station at the beginning of the combat phase, you can roll one defense dice. And if you get that evade, which is a fairly good chance you will, you just bought yourself a battle station for free. So Ghent is a good way to save gold press platinum. Now the other card that makes the Scimitar even deadlier is Chemocyte. So activation phase. When you reveal this ship's maneuver, you may increase the speed of the maneuver by 2. The color of the maneuver remains the same as the revealed maneuver. So you may be thinking, well, big deal. What's that? Why would you need that? Remember that the Scimitar and the Reman Warbird only have 4 white maneuvers. 2 straight and the 2 1 banks. You can take a 1 left bank and then with this card say, I don't want to 1 bank. I want to 3 bank. So now you're out there even further. It's still considered a green maneuver, so you're clearing whatever aux you had. And that's it. That's the point. You can do a 2 forward, which is still green, and say, let's do a 4 forward. I'm not feeling this. And clear the aux, bang, and fire your Photon torpedoes. So these 2 builds here are fairly good. This top build is good too. This top build is the one I prefer to run because it's cheaper. Especially just with the Grawl shenanigans. I mean, you could easily just throw Grawl out and put Ghent in here. But I like having enough gold press platinum to last me more than 3 rounds. Just so that I can have reassurance that, yeah, you'll be able to get that battle station. Because that's all I'm going to spend it for. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's throw these over here. Along with these cards. We covered Rules of Acquisition. Okay, this one is a Reman Warbird build. So it's the generic Reman Warbird. Now this one I have run in conjunction with my first Money Goblin build. And I'll bring that back over once we have everything sorted. Well, okay, this one's a little bit more. It's modified because of this new card, but it's the build that I like to run. So I'll bring this guy over. And this is if I'm feeling like bringing double scimitars. Most of the time I don't want to bring double scimitars to a match or a meetup because who really wants to play against double scimitars? Don't get me wrong, I love flying scimitars, Reman Warbirds. I hate facing them. Everybody I know hates facing them. And I tend to lean towards the Vorn and other builds that I tinker with. Um, Gorn Raiders, another future video. But okay, so this top generic Reman Warbird build. So it's just the Reman Warbird, so we're down a shield, which is fine because we're going to be cloaked most of the time. Now we will not be able to cloak or stay permanently cloaked with this ship, but that's okay. Gold Ducat. We're talking the old Gold Ducat from the Coronac, I believe it was. And he says your ship may perform an evade or battle station action as a free round, or free action this round. Perfect. We want battle stations. We got another copy of Ferengi Photon Torpedoes. And then this is the newest addition to this build is Kalana. When one or more time tokens would be placed on a secondary upgrade equipped to this ship, place one fewer. So she's pretty much Romulan Bridge Officer. At the same cost too. So really, you could switch her in and out with Romulan Bridge Officer. I just like Kalana a lot better. So this build here, the Reman Warbird is at 36. And Ducat's at 5. That puts him at 40. Nope. He's at 6. So that puts him at 42. Yep, 42. Ferengi Photon Torpedoes would be at 3. Puts it at 45. Kalana would be at 3, which puts it at 48. So you're looking at 48 points here, 45 points here. That's fairly close to your upper limit. If you're going to run another ship, you definitely need to run some kind of support ship, science vessel, Dinatra, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, most of these builds with the Reman Warbird are just going to be short and sweet. Scimitar, same thing, short and sweet. It's just meant to pack a heavy punch. The Ferengi are meant to spend their gold press latinum to ensure that punch, and Ducat's just there to give them the free battle station to, again, ensure that punch. You don't need a target lock to fire these torpedoes. It doesn't hurt if you don't have... if you have an action with either of these ships and you don't sensor echo, if you're cloaked, you've got them in your firing arc and you know they're going to be there, and you don't need a sensor echo, then you can take a target lock to ensure that you get to reroll those blanks, and you'll have the battle stations to convert any battle stations. So again, it's putting the numbers game in your favor. That perfect quality. I want target lock battle stations. Alright, let's grab these cards and we'll throw them on the other side. Okay, this is an idea that I have been tinkering with. So again, we've got another Reman Warbird here with Gul Dukat, so we're getting our free battle stations. We've got Gul Damar. So now Gul Damar is bumping Gul Dukat up +2 captain skill up to a skill 9. And Gul Damar is a built-in target lock if you need it. And we are talking Federation Photon Torpedoes. Now this build is going to be tough. And the reason I say it's going to be tough is because to fire the Federation Photon Torpedoes, you need to have a target lock. So you're going to be doing not as many sensor echoes. Excuse me. You're not going to be doing as many sensor echoes, but you are going to be doing those bigger banks to try and get some space between you and the enemy ship. Banks are the higher up forwards, so that way you can make use of that rear arc and firing these things. They are disables as well, so it's going to take a turn at least for you to get them to be at least 2 turns to get back to where you want to be, where you're cloaked and have a target lock, because you got to spend to get the ship re-enabled. But I figured if you're going to be disabling them, then you might as well go ahead and you're going to be disabling them. You're going to be spending the target lock token, so you might as well go ahead and throw Goldemar in and place 2 time tokens on it to get all your blinks rerolled, up to 3 attack dice rerolled. And that torpedo is going to be a 7 dice attack. So nothing too crazy. I have not play tested that. Don't know how effective it is, but it's definitely an interesting thought that I had when I was preparing for the video. So let's throw this off to the side here. And let's get the next build out. Okay, so this is another generic Reman Warbird. And this time we went with Captain Laris. So a Romulan captain. Combat phase of the ship performed a sensor echo action this game round. Place a battle station token besides the ship, and the ship rolls +1 attack dice this game round. That's wonderful. You always... It's great because you're going to want to sensor echo a lot with the Reman Warbirds to get them in arc. And if you do sensor echo, then you get the battle station, which you want. And then you're rolling +1 attack dice. So you're making this attack of 6 up to a 7. We've got the Admiral, Liviana Sharvanek. Yeah, Sharvanek. Fleet action. If your ship has a cloak action on its action bar, place a cloak token beside your ship and immediately perform an action from your action bar as a free action. She allows you to cloak and then do a sensor echo in the same round. So if you fire and you're if you fire a weapon and you get out of there quickly, you can use Liviana to re-cloak and then sensor echo to be where you need to be. And then if you sensor echo, Laris activates. This is just one of those nice chain combos, as I would call them. The next card here is another copy of Ferengi Photon Torpedoes. Again, like the Vorn in the episode 1, there are specific cards that just go well with the ship that are just cheap. This is one of those cards. It only really costs 3. Again, cheaper if you have Lurin on here. But Lurin is a captain that goes on the Scimitar. Ferengi Photon Torpedoes really go on any cloaking ship, but they really are really super effective with the Reman Warbird. So because the weapon value is 6, the Photon Torpedo Strike is going to be 6. If you sensor echoed, Laris is activated anytime you attack. He's not restricted to your primary weapon. So your Photon Torpedoes all of a sudden are now a 7 attack. And the last card here in the build is Bridge Officer. Again, complementing the Ferengi Photon Torpedoes by reducing the time tokens down. So now you can use time tokens, or you can use your Photon Torpedoes every round. So this is another build that I have not completely playtested. It was a build that I was going to take to one of our local games here in Michigan before everything kind of stopped. In the before times. So, what's the cost of this build? Well, Reman Warbird's coming at 36. Lars is at 4, so we're bringing it up to 40. Liviana is 3, so 43. Ferengi Photon Torpedoes is also 3, because it's out of faction. So 46. Bridge Officer makes it 49. It's very expensive, but it's very good at what it does. Again, you want to be sensor echoing. You want to be cloaked. Liviana Laris is perfect. And then the Photon Torpedoes Bridge Officers. Both of these are just chain combos with one another. And then on top of it, you're putting Ox Powers on your enemy's ship. Which is just a great way to try and control their movement. Ugh. Okay. So before I break into these couple of community suggested builds, I do want to grab the Reman Warbird and the Scimitar. And I asked the community the question, the Facebook community at large, the question of what captains do you like to see put on the Scimitar and the Reman Warbird? Um, so here are some of those responses. So we've got just OG starter set Picard on either or, giving you free actions every round, high captain skill. The only downside to having him on one of these ships is that he's going to cost 7 points. That's a hefty price to pay, but again, it might be an okay trade-off if you're not wanting to put that many upgrades on it. Because you're getting high skill captain with free actions on his own action bar. So he's bringing a battle station action with him. Here's another option. Kayafet Amansor, one of the Zindi captains. When defending during the modified defense dice step, you may re-roll one of your blank results. If your ship's hull value is greater than the attacking ship hull value, you may re-roll all of your blanks. Well, unless you're playing against the Borg Cube or Weapon Zero, excuse me, or one of the big base ships, that second part of the ability is not gonna happen. But defense reroll, okay, that's good. That's always good. Mendak was another option. Okay, apparently he's not wanting. He's not wanting to snap into place here. There we go. Alright, Mendak. Action. Target a friendly ship at range 1 to 2, including your own, that has no battle station tokens beside it, and place a battle station token besides that ship. The target ship cannot perform the battle station action this round. This card may only be purchased for a Romulan ship. Okay, so Mendak's giving you a battle station at the cost of an action. It's not a bad ability. You could do him. You can even do his admiral side if you wanted to. I think the stronger Romulan captain is going to be Laris in this case. He's got one higher captain skill, plus you combine him with Liviana. She's just going to improve that. This is not a captain, but this is a crew that was suggested, which was Elizabeth Shelby. Again, that defense re-rolling, ensuring that your defense quality is good. Here is another one, Carr, which is a great independent captain. We'll definitely be going into him in a future video. When attacking, during the modify attack dice step, you may re-roll any one of your attack dice twice. In addition, if your captain's skill is greater than the target ship's skill number during the roll attack dice step, gain +1 attack die. I think it was him paired with Mendak who boosted his skill up to 10. And as long as you can get above 9, Carr is generally going to give you that +1 attack die. So that's a really good ability. Rerolling a dice twice is good too. There's many times where that saved me in a game. Again, expensive, putting him on a Scimitar without the use of captured or something like that. Because it'll be 6 with a faction penalty. 5 normally it's pretty high. But it could be worth it if you pair him with like captured on either the Reman or the Scimitar. Gul Evek. Each time you defend, you may reroll all of your blank results one time. Low skill captain. I think the big bonus here is he's cheap. On the Scimitar or on the Reman Warbird, he's only going to cost 3 points. So he's cheap, so you can kind of fill the rest of the slots with stuff. So Salatrell. At the start of the game, after setup, choose one faction. For the rest of the game during the combat phase, if the ship of that faction is in your forward firing arc, treat your captain skill as if it were a 10 until the end phase of that round. So a lot of benefit to her as well, being treated as a 10. You just have to be aware that that's forward firing arc only. So if you fly past your opponent and you're trying to fire at your rear, you're still down to skill 5. But it could be beneficial because your opponent may not have a rear firing weapon, which happens a lot, especially if they're trying to save points. Again, she's coming in at 3 points, so fairly good cost saving there. Dinatra was another captain that was suggested. So all of your friendly ships within range 1 of your ship gain +1 attack die. My biggest thought on Dinatra is I don't want her on one of my Reman Warbirds or my Scimitar. And the reason why is because she's a support captain and not really a captain that is going to give the Warbird a buff. Um, she's skill 6, so she's kind of middle tier skill. 4 points, not terrible, but I'd like to see her if she's going into a double scimitar build. She's going on a science vessel, um, and she's going to hang out within range 1 of these guys to give them that +1 attack die. So she's a good captain for a Reman Warbird Scimitar build, either or, as that she plays a supporting role and shouldn't be on either of those ships because she doesn't give the attack die to herself. Another one that was suggested, it's very thematic, is Viceroy. At the start of the game, place 2 mission tokens on this card. During the planning phase, after all other ships have chosen their maneuver, you may discard one of the mission tokens from this card to target a ship at range 1 and look at that ship's maneuver dial and then select your maneuver. The target ship cannot change its chosen maneuver after you look at it. So he's a way to peek at what your opponent's doing. You get to do it twice in the game. That could be beneficial for those times where you're coming in, you guys do the initial joust, and then you're trying to figure out where are they going so that I can maneuver my ship into place and then plan for a sensor echo in the future. And then the last card that was suggested, again another very thematic card, was Shinzan himself on the Scimitar with the Thalaron weapon, which I think it's super expensive. I didn't do the math on that. But Shinzan is an interesting captain to put on either the Reman Warbird or the Scimitar because you're placing during the Gather Forces step, instead of purchasing an Elite Talent upgrade as normal, you may spend 4 SP to place 4 Romulan Elite Talent upgrades face down besides this card. These cards remain face down until you decide to use one of them. When you do so, select the one you want to use and turn it face up for the rest of the game, then discard the 3 others. So he's a utilitarian Swiss Army knife type of captain. Very reminiscent. I think he came out before DNA encoded messages did, but you can take 4 Romulan elite talents that cost 5 apiece, so 20 points across that spread, and buy them for 4. So it's very interesting. I'm not saying the Romulans have the greatest elite talents in the world, but there's definitely some flexibility you can do with the elite talents that they have on hand. And that was it for the community suggestions on the captains. I do thank everybody for joining in that conversation with me. I got a lot of hits on it, and that's always good to see. So let's just throw these cards back off to the side here. And now these 2 builds were community builds that people in the community had sent to me on the same message chain. This one was by Anthony Yates, who, if I believe correctly, is a purist. So he plays, or the group he plays in is Faction Penalty Pure. And this was his build that he liked to run. There we go. So we got the Scimitar, again with Captain Lars. Very good Romulan captain. Auxiliary Power Core. When this card has 2 or more Aux Power tokens on it, discard it. When an Aux Power token would be placed beside the ship, place that Aux Power token on this card instead. So Auxiliary Power Core allows you to kind of do your initial joust, use the Scimitar's ability to stay cloaked, and you can just throw the Aux Power on that card. And then when you're coming out of the joust, you can kind of try and bank off, and then again, after attacking that second time, use the ability, stay cloaked, throw the aux power on auxiliary power core, and you got to discard it at that point. But that's a pretty good use for that card. It's fairly cheap. He's got interface generator in here just to kind of protect him or protect the Scimitar in the event that it takes a fairly good hit. It is cloaked, so no shields. Everything goes straight to the hull. He could just discard this and take one hit instead. Triphasic emitters is a good way to get an expensive weapon onto the Scimitar. The only downside to using triphasic emitters on a build like this is that you have to discard the weapon after use. So place a non-Borg upgrade, secondary weapon upgrade with a cost of 5 or less beneath it, and then attack, discard this card, and place that card face up, and then you can attack if possible. After the attack resolves, discard that card. In this event, he chose Plasma Torpedoes. It's range 1 to 2, 5 attack dice. If you Sensor Echo with Lars, goes up to 6. You can reroll all of your blanks one time. You gotta have a target lock for it. So it's an expensive thing here. But it's an interesting build nonetheless, especially for being pure. I think that's the key, is that this is faction penalty pure play. Scimitar sitting at 38 points. Lars brings that up to 42. Auxiliary Power Core brings it up to 45. Interface Generator brings it up to 48. Triphasic Emitters brings it up to 50, with Plasma Torpedoes being free. Again, not terrible for being penalty pure. I definitely think it's something that you could be seen used in that kind of environment. So let's throw the build over here. And this one is another community submission build. This one was by Brian Gillespie. Many of you know him. He is a 4-time UK national champion. And this is an older build that he used to play a lot. And he said that it got a lot. It did a lot for him. So it's an oldie but a goodie. So you got the Scimitar with its ability to stay cloaked. Gold Ducat, giving you those battle stations. That's something the Scimitar really needs. Romulan Helmsman. During the activation phase, if you reveal a red maneuver, you may disable this card to treat that maneuver as if it were white. I don't think this is the actual Helmsman that he's using. He's using the other one, which I don't know why I didn't pull. I'm not going to worry about it. I will open it up here. And nope, that's the only. Oh, okay. So that's the only Romulan Helmsman there is. So I don't know what I'm getting. I was getting confused with Romulan Pilot. Yeah, and maybe that's what he put, and I just misread it. So Romulan Pilot, free action, discard this card, place a scan token beside the ship, and the ship may perform a green maneuver. That seems more like what this is supposed to be. Either way, interesting. And then again, interface generator just to kind of cover the Scimitar in the event that it takes a fairly good hit at close range or something, where you can cancel all those hits and just suffer 1 damage. And that, my friends, is the last build I had for the Scimitar in this build breakdown. So I hope you guys get some fairly good ideas on what to build and how to use the Scimitar in the Reman Warbird. Again, they're not bad ships for the game at all. They are. I know they're hard to get a hold of in the wild. I got lucky finding as many as I did myself, and that kind of involved. I found one in the wild at a game store for regular price. I bought that, and then I was at a convention. I want to say it was Indianapolis Comic Con. I was there walking the floor, and I had walked by a booth that had just kind of like random, GI Joes, random things in plastic bags, and it was like a $5 rack. But they had two Reman Warbirds, two Scimitars in one bag with all the cards, $5. So I pretty much tore the rack down to get that. Um, so I walked away, and at the end of the day, I got three of them in my collection now, one for every person that plays out of my collection. But I got really lucky, and I know that they're hard to find in the wild. If you play on Tabletop Simulator with us, they're definitely not. I mean, that's not a barrier there. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear or see anybody's builds that involve these ships. They're wonderful. I love flying them. I hate playing against them. Um, but I think once you get used to flying them and getting used to how you need to center echo and um, just how to run the money goblin build itself, once you do that, the Scimitar will just click. It's a great ship. Um, and that's really all I've got to say for this episode. We will. I'm going to be taking a short break here. I'm going on vacation myself, so I will be out of the office for a week and a half or so. Tomorrow, Tuesday, May 25th, we've got another episode of the Captain's Table coming up, episode 5, going over the cards from Alliance. So I invite you guys to join us there to talk about those cards and what combos and strengths and weaknesses those cards have in the game today. Um, Other than that, we've got Fremont Reformation coming up, Season 3, fast approaching. The build deadline was extended out to May 27th. If you guys don't know exactly what the Fremont Reformation League is, I will do a plug here. The Fremont Reformation is a group of attack wing players that kind of got together towards the end of 2020. We kind of built this league system so that people can continue playing attack wing. It's done all over the internet with the help of Tabletop Simulator and those of us who keep that mod alive. It's free to join. If you need the link to Discord, just shoot me a message and I will give you the Discord link. If you're interested in joining, we have the fleet rules up on the Discord. We are looking for fleets of 120, up to 120 SP. There's no ship minimum. Of course, 50 points per ship is the maximum there, and we play a nice scenario. But for new players, you guys would start out, if you're interested in joining, you guys would start out in a league called Lower Decks. And in the Lower Decks leagues, it's not super competitive play, and that was by design. So those people down there are playing for fun. They're playing to move up the ladder, which we have different tiers of league play. So we've got Lower Decks all the way up to the original series, which is the top tier, the most competitive players that we have. We're talking multiple national championships, a couple world champions up in that tier. But don't let that deter you from playing, because the Lower Decks is great. I started out in Lower Decks, and it was a good time. So, again, thank you all for joining me for tonight. If you're watching this on playback, and you just happen to stumble on the Twitch channel, do give us a follow. That way you know when we go live and do these kind of videos. There's more coming out after I get back from vacation. Other than that, everybody have a good night, and thank you for joining me.